This is a GPU. It is effectively magic. We've created magic, and it's what's going to kick off the next industrial revolution. But it's also going to take a lot of people's jobs. For thousands of years, we toiled in the fields in order to survive. Life was brutal. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. As our technology got better, it freed up our time and our brains to focus on other things. So much so that nowadays we have people that study rocks for a living. There are people whose job it was to go to the moon and back, hopefully. We're on a long-winded transition from the age of work to the age of post-work. AI is the frontier we're on at the moment, and we're already seeing massive job losses over to AI. Patient zero is the tech industry itself. Being the industry who understands these tools already, that's where most of the job losses have already taken place. 22,000 tech workers have lost their jobs this year. So we can look no further than tech itself to see what other industries are going to start to do once they're brave enough to adopt these new technologies. The figures I have for you here are actually quite terrifying. The US government has already sacked 260,000 people in a push towards AI optimization. It's estimated by the World Economic Forum that in the next 2 years only, over 80 million jobs worldwide will be lost. There is huge displacement on a grand scale that we have never seen before. The list goes on. IBM's HR team is now 94% automated. Microsoft, 6,300 jobs lost last month. 50% of employers considering cutting staff. Our economic model is predicated on the idea that you either produce something that generates value, i.e. for a wage, or you own something that generates value. And that's how you have financial means in the world today. But what happens when you cannot generate value anymore because AI can do it more cheaply than you can? It's often cited all over the news at the moment that the first bloodbath will be white-collar workers. And that is because they sell, in essence, knowledge. And knowledge is getting cheaper and cheaper by the day. However, for the time being, the big disconnect is trust. People do not trust the AI models or their implementation, and therefore we still have white-collar workers. But it's predicted that 50% of entry-level workers in white-collar roles, their jobs will be lost in 1 to 5 years. That's the CEO of Anthropic saying that, one of the biggest AI companies. That means that there's lots of people in university at the moment who will come out with degrees which are completely useless. It will start with jobs which are easy to do and repetitive, but it will scale upwards as the models get better and as trust goes up over time. So the adoption of AI increases. And it's not just white collar work. It's often cited that if you're a plumber, for example, you're safe, but you're not. Let's talk about Optimus, the Tesla robot. Always had a huge technical challenge in producing robots, because they kind of act like drunk people. They're a bit clumsy and they fall over. But what Tesla is doing is it's creating human-like robotics at the moment. 1,000 set to release in 2025 with millions to follow in the years to 2030. And they have, above all, the ability to have dexterity in their hands. So if you're a plumber and you need to reach into something, you've always been safe because robots can't do that. They don't have the manual dexterity. Tesla robots now have that, and it's getting better all the time. If you take a Tesla robot and you put an AI into it, you have a super worker. They can work all day and all night. They're going to cost initially about $20,000 to $30,000, a fraction of what you spend on employees, but that cost will scale down over time as we mass produce them. By 2030, it's estimated that 20 million manufacturing jobs will be replaced by robots. So it's not happening quite as fast as knowledge-intensive workers, but make no mistake, it's happening, and it's happening soon. The next 10 years or so, therefore, is the dystopic period, because that's the period in which we have rapid job loss and therefore no incomes for people who quite often in the West have a lot of debt to service. And the problem is vastly outstripping the solution. There is no solution at the moment to this. nor is one under any kind of development as yet. The problem will happen first, and then we'll be in a rush to try and deal with it. One of the ways we thought about that is universal basic income, where if you can't work, the government will pay you an income instead. There's no parameters, boundaries around that as yet. With AI automating everything, the cost of production will slowly move towards zero. But in the meantime, there will be no income among citizens of countries to actually buy anything. And that creates a massive problem for businesses because they need revenue to sustain themselves. Make no mistake, businesses will automate jobs, not because they're nasty, but because they have a fiduciary duty towards their shareholders to maximize shareholder value. That is a legal duty, and they cannot keep costs that they simply do not need. But a lot of this remains to be figured out. We don't know how much to pay different people. If you had a high-paying job and you're in, say, a white-collar job and you lose it, do you still get the same amount? You've got a house probably to service. There's a certain lifestyle that you're used to. Will it be apportioned in a way that caters to that, or will it be a flat income? None of this has been resolved. Inevitably, the concentration of wealth will move to those who own assets, and in particular, the assets which have now been automated so that the production scales up enormously. So what we're seeing in terms of inequality will simply grow quite quickly. It will speed up inequality rather than slow it down in the short term. Now, I'll caveat all of this to say that there has been some regret in those who have adopted AI in terms of how they've worked so far. It's going to take some time to fully penetrate. And it is cited that AI will create jobs as well. However, in the longer term, once AI can effectively do everything, it stands to some objection as to how it's going to create more jobs than it will lose. Now, following that dystopic period, there is the optimistic view of utopia. And that's where, rather than having our current capitalist model, which has money as a sort of derivative of value, the price of goods has fallen effectively to zero. There's millions of robots with AI producing everything. Therefore, at that point, we have the age of abundance. Money effectively ceases to function within that model because everyone has everything they want. If you like this channel and you want to help it grow, please do subscribe. And I promise I'm not some Scottish AI, as many in the comments have been suggesting.